Hello, my name is Laura Chesnik, and I'm the MLPC spokesperson on education and related matters. I'm also an elementary teacher in Windsor, Ontario, and a host of the podcast Education is a Right, a national podcast on education and related matters. The podcast is dedicated to teachers, education workers, parents, students, and all those concerned about affirming the right to education to speak for ourselves. On the occasion of May 1st, I joined the Workers' Centre in greeting the working class and people across Canada and Quebec, and especially teachers and education workers across the country who, amidst the latest explosion of COVID cases, continued to identify ways to fight for their rights to safe working conditions and the social investments the youth require. I want to also specifically greet healthcare workers at all levels across Canada, on whom we in the teaching profession have depended to raise the demand for proper investments in social programs so that they can do their vital work. Together, we defend the people's interests. May 1st in Ontario marks the beginning of the official campaign period of the provincial elections. This election is taking place amidst the complete abandonment of public health measures in our schools and the mass spread of COVID-19 as a result. Yet, we are told the election will be about the post-COVID recovery and what that will look like. Workers across the province are participating in May Day actions to raise their demands during the election campaign. In this election, we're being encouraged to vote for a Workers' First agenda. Of course, workers are the majority of the population, and if things were based on what the majority wants, the agenda of the workers would be the main agenda of the society. Workers have been putting forward demands and proposals throughout the entire pandemic in all sectors of the economy. In education in particular, we have been elaborating the necessity for investments to reduce class sizes, to modernize the curriculum, and to improve ventilation in every school, for example. However, it's as if a workers' first agenda already exists, irrespective of these demands and experiences, and that one or a few of the parties running stands for this agenda, and that we just have to make the right choice at the ballot box. In other words, there's no need to work out and elaborate our own agenda based on our own experience. It's just a matter of getting everyone to make the right choice. In our experience in education, the workers on the front line are very capable of identifying problems and solutions. In interviewing educators, students, parents groups, and others across the country, we can see that they are all very capable of identifying what is needed, the problems students face, the problems they face in their working conditions, etc. They are all also very adept at advocating for changes, such as demanding masks, for testing, for proper ventilation, etc. It is this advocacy that has limited the worst effects of the pandemic and has created alternatives. We can see from our experience that we are the ones, along with parents, healthcare workers, and scientists, who are on the front lines trying to solve these problems, while governments of all stripes across the country just tried to spin everything to favor their public ratings and to make any measures they took look like a panacea, in order to avoid taking the all-sided measures that were required. For example, in Ontario, when they wanted us to go back to school without addressing proper ventilation, they reopened schools and then they said they were giving all staff N95 respirators. This, despite the fact that we had been asking for these respirators since the very beginning of the pandemic, and were told that they were not needed and that it was impossible to get them to all staff. Suddenly, however, when they want us back in the schools, they give us N95s. This self-serving MO of just using what we demand to try and manipulate the public and turn things on their heads has been laid bare for all to see. The idea that we can have an agenda that benefits us come out of this or that party, taking a few of the workers' demands and putting them on their election platform, basically says we don't need to work out our own program and demands and find ways to put them forward. We just need to make a good choice. We know from our experience in building the podcast that when we create our own spaces to share our experiences, we learn from one another. We use what we learn, and it helps us in our own conditions. By creating our own spaces for discussions, exchanges, and information, we can work out what to do under different circumstances and empower ourselves more. These influence ourselves and the public and creates a different future. It takes us out of being passive observers or complainers about elected officials or even unions and gives us a way to work out how to act together and then learn from our experiences. It's small at first, but it shows that we have something to say. We have our own perspective, and we are the ones who know what is required. By focusing on building these things, we can keep developing to a point where we can say that we can represent ourselves. We don't need to just vote for someone else in the hopes that they will take up our agenda when their only interest is to stay in power. So on this May Day, I would like to say that we, working people, have a right to decide the direction of our society. We know the problems and we have solutions. It is up to us to build and support the instruments and spaces we need to have our say, rather than believing that someone else will do it for us. Happy May Day. It is our day to celebrate the unity and struggle of the working class for a country built in our image, not the nation-wrecking image of the rich.